this machine is called a jointer. Now the jointer's main job is to take a piece of wood that has two rough edges and to shave off an edge to make it flat and smooth, and it becomes what's usually referred to as a working edge, and we'll talk more about that as we continue on. Now some of the parts about the jointer are this area, the halfway point. This is called the in-feed table. This is the out-feed table. Of course you have your cutter head and the guard that needs to stay over it, so it should be on a spring. If you notice that the guard doesn't spring back all the way, please let me know and that can be adjusted. We also have our fence. Those are the main parts. And of course your on-off, which can be located in different parts of a different joiner. When you're looking at a piece of wood, I mentioned shave an edge. Which one is the edge? This is an end because the grain lines come and they end, if you will, they're cut off. This is an edge, okay, and here's a face. So both edges are rough. They come from the factory rather rough, and we're going to push the board against the fence and push it across the blade, and it will shave off between a 1/16 and an 1/8 of an inch, depending on what your machine, your joiner, is set at. Once you're ready to joint, how should your hands be placed? Now there's a few different things that we need to cover. First, fingers. Where are they? Obviously we want to stay clear of the cutting wheel, any of the blades, so your hands need to be up above the guard. But take your thumbs, both of them. A friend of mine showed me this trick, easy to remember, and put them both on top of the board, one in the front and one in the back. The front hand, turn and open so your fingers are pushing it into the fence. The board must be tight against the fence. The fence is perpendicular to the table, so that will give me a perfect 90 degrees. So this left hand's job is hold it tight against the fence. The right hand, thumb on top, is just pushing the board across. So I'm not like this, I'm not turned, I'm not holding it like this, which can easily make it pull away from the fence. And then you're taking a step. So once your hands are in place, normally that will naturally put your feet in the right place. So when you're ready, you need to have your feet in a semi-wide stance, about shoulder width apart, and put them in a direction that you're going to take a walk. You're going to take a step across the blade to get the board across evenly. I have seen students that want to stand like this and pull it. The downside about that is so much pressure is on the front that it tends to tip into the blade. So fingers, thumbs on top, fingers spread out on here to hold it in place, making sure that they're above the fence. If I have a board that is really short, there's not a lot of room to hold on to, and certainly my hand is going to be inside of that guard. So we're going to use a push stick, which is located just behind. Grab one of these little push sticks and put it on top. It's got a little hook in the back, so you can hook, and now I can safely hold on to the board. The idea is anything that's shorter than the fence is going to need a push stick. Now that being said, if the board is just a hair shy of the top, what happens is the push stick will tend to wobble off. So that can actually be a little bit more dangerous. So I would say anything that is significantly shorter than the fence, maybe down to about an inch or so, your best judgment, needs to have a push stick, because now I don't have enough room for all of my fingers to stay safe. Now that you understand where to place your hands and your feet, which edge should you cut? Most of them are pretty obvious. You always want to cut to trim the best edge, the best one. Now your brain may say, well, wait a minute, don't I want to do the worst edge to make it a good one? And no, that's not the case. You want to do the best edge, so I only have to cut once or twice, tops. If I did this edge, it would be, cut quite a few times just to get rid of it all. So cut your good edge, and then later on in the process, we're going to trim off the bad edge on the table saw. So this one is easy to identify. On a board like this, your best edge, I would try to stay away from a knot that's on the edge of a board. Generally, especially if it's a loose knot, it hits a blade and pieces can break off and they can go flying and hit you. So this would not be my good edge, it would definitely be that one. So on a board that you really can't tell, both of these edges are good. This knot is in the middle, so I'm not even going to get close to it. This edge is also pretty good. Take your pick, it doesn't matter. Pick your best edge, that's the one we're going to cut. Get your fingers ready, and now we'll cut. Check it. If I didn't get it all, do it again. There's a little bit left, so do it a second time. Now you'll notice that my arms generally don't even move. If you're having to push with your arms and use a lot of upper body, you're doing it wrong. Make sure your arms should be fairly straight and you just walk it across. That's it. So my arms really don't do a lot of the work. It's my step. Also, how fast should I go across? Well, if I go too fast, there are two main problems. Number one is you may get a lot of tear out, some pieces that actually, instead of being shaved off, they actually get ripped off. I got just a little bit right there, not much. The other problem is there's a lot of ripples, so rippling this way. I've gone so fast, it's hard to tell unless you look in the right light, that a blade will cut and then I shift the board and the next one cuts and I shift and cut. The further apart those cuts are, the bigger these ripples are, and I can feel it. The board's not smooth. So as far as how quick to go, slower is better than faster, but it's hard to tell. You will just be able to figure it out as you make more cuts. About that fast. So take your time to end up with a nice smooth cut. Remember, slower is better than faster. The shortest board that you can cut on a jointer is 12 inches long. Now this one is a little bit shorter than 12, so I want to show you what tends to happen with something this short. You're pushing here and it tends to tip. So as you're cutting, if I pull the guard away just so you can see, I'm cutting, and it tends to tip into the blade. And you get what's called a snipe cut. So even if I completed the cut, you can see that it's still not flat. Now the other thing I wanted to warn you about is only cut edge grain, only cut edge grain. If I cut end grain like this, it's going to tear out the back. So let me see if I can demonstrate what's going to happen. And you can see pieces went flying off. That will happen every single time. You'll get a lot of tear out and it just destroys your nice working edge. If you need to cut a really large piece of wood, and even bigger than this, I've done many times, the sequence is the same, but your hands may want to change slightly. If my hand is way up high and I'm holding here, I will still want to tip it forward, so it makes it difficult. So what I have to do is take my right hand and bring it down so my pushing is more this direction than at an angle. So let me demonstrate. Remember that my left hand has to be between the top of the fence and in between the guard. So here, I still have to push. That's it. So if I go here, you get there and it tips. If I bring my hand down, now it's easier to control and I can go forward. Then I'd have to do it again to get rid of that snipe. It's the same this way. Now it's even taller. I don't want to do that. It's just wants to push. Hold it down here. Make a nice even cut. When someone else is cutting on the jointer, the worst place you can stand is directly behind the infeed table, right in line. Simply because the blade is spinning towards this person. If anything does come shooting out, it's going to go that way. So you want to be very careful. Don't be right here. Walking back and forth in front, I get it. It's a wood shop. There's a lot of people. But don't stand here to watch. You're just putting yourself in harm's way.